Your suffering comes from what you refuse to release. You want to let go because of the pain, but when you try to let go, it hurts even more. To evolve, you have to detach. Anything that grows sheds. And to simply just be, that requires no attachment. So that's why I say you cannot force detachment. We cannot force detachment. You keep trying to let go, but that's what's keeping it there, whatever you're trying to let go of. And trying to let go, I found out that it doesn't work like that. You're trying to let the thing go and it won't let you go. Many people struggle with letting go. I myself was one of them. And I'm not saying that I'm so grounded now that I don't hold on to stuff. But there is a profound understanding that I have now than I did before. The more you try to let go, the more you become attached to whatever you're trying to let go. And that's why many people struggle with letting go. And you hear it all the time. You just have to let go. Everything in life goes through the process of detachment when you really observe. And when it's force, if it's force, it brings more pain and suffering. Because the pain comes because a part of us is still holding on. You resist because it hurts. You resist because you still care. So you try to force the letting go process, although you haven't truly let go. And the more you try, the harder it becomes. This is the realization, because forcing it is just another way of resisting what is happening. You know, if it lives rent free in your head, then am I really detached? Distance is not detachment. No matter how far you are away from the situation, material possession, someone, distance is not detachment. And if I try to let go and try to force that letting go process, I feel like it limits your life in so many different ways. It leads to coldness, numbness, fear. It's driven by fear. And the fear that if you do not have this thing in your life, you're lost without it. I'm being a little bit dramatic, but you understand. Hopefully you understand. And when we try to let go, whether through distancing ourselves or finding another distraction, or even isolation, that can do more harm than good. And the more disconnected you are from who you truly are, it's the harder detaching becomes. the struggle. You struggle with detachment when you don't really know yourself. I found this to be true. And what is it to really let go? What is it to really detach from something? For me, it means that it doesn't own me anymore, which means it once did. It once had a very strong influence in my life, in the way I see things, in the way I see myself, which is most important. The most important thing here, it's this this strong influence on the way I see myself. So really, when you are detached, it can be there, but there is no attachment to it. It can still be present in your life, but it doesn't own your actions or your thoughts towards it when you're really detached. Because if you have to be away from it, and I'm not saying that you don't need to sometimes remove yourself from a situation, but if you have to distance yourself from it, I don't really, it doesn't feel that you're detached, because that distancing that you're doing, it's because of it. So it still has some sort of power in your life. And no matter how far you are away, I realize the letting go process begins really in the mind. And that's why I say no matter how far you are away, it does not mean that we are detached. Certain religious practices use can I say self-denial as a way to detach, denying the full self, denying who you used to be, denying the things you used to do to detach. I've done that. And don't get me wrong, there are probably intense forms of detachment out there that involves self-discipline. But if we still have to resist in some sort of way, then I don't think that we're truly at the point of true detachment. And I say this is because we have to maintain the self-discipline practice continuously to be detached, if that makes sense. It requires a maintenance. The deepest detachment would be the absence of no self. And I know this might be going a little bit into it a little bit, but the deepest detachment, it would be when the self totally dissolves and there is just presence. Because the person or the personality or the person you think you are in relation to the attachment is where the need arises. I wonder if you follow me. Just like we cling to our mothers and fathers as children, we're attached to them in some way. So it's almost, not almost, but we're born into this conditioning. We're conditioned to be attached. So I feel that attachment is more natural to the human experience than letting go. Just from my observation. Am I going too deep? I know I'm going to sound like the contrarian here, but there are so many different ways out there that teaches us to how to let go. You know, the world in itself sells that to us, but it sells it in a way from just from observing. It tells you, oh, detach from this, but it also directs you to attach into something else at the same time. And that can be the trap, because now you are more attached, if that makes sense. Now you're more attached. Now the need to be attached is even stronger. And it takes the focus away from knowing yourself, discovering who you are. It takes the focus away from self-discovery, because you're always trying to attach. Your identity is carved into something else, whether it's a physical or material possession. So instead of bringing the focus back to yourself, your identity is tied into whatever you were attached to. And in the human experience, yes, we have connection. We you know, I care for my plants. I care for my little one that you always see running around in the video. I care for my family. But the deeper understanding for me is that everything in life, if you look in life, you'll see that everything is coming and everything is going. So in life, the process of detachment is there. It's in growth, and it's in our inner transformation, most of all. If you're experiencing a shift, you will go through detachment. And I feel that in order for one to let go, you must have a true understanding of yourself. That's where it starts for me. In order for us to let go, we must begin to understand ourselves. If we don't, then all we are doing is recycling our attachment. Because if the need is still there, which is why we are attached in the first place, how will you resolve the need? Can we truly detach and still have a need for it? Can we love and not be attached to it? Can we care about something and not be attached to it? Detachment is the evidence of change. If you are going through your awakening, as you begin to recognize your true, authentic nature, self, the person that needs to attach slowly begins to dissolve. So the need, you start to experience that you don't need certain things anymore. You don't need to be in certain spaces anymore. You're detaching. You don't need to identify so strongly with this anymore. How can I explain this? It's like there's a neutrality there. There's a neutrality there because you're seeing it. Your level of consciousness is rising as you are awakening. So you see it. You see past the illusion of what it is. So you understand it better. Why? Because I feel like we understand ourselves, which is the foundation of all truth. The need and the identity that was attached, when that begins to if dissolve, then detachment is happening. Detachment happens naturally. You're letting go, as opposed to when you were trying to let go. And I found this to be the most clear. I see it clearly. It's the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The most natural way, authentic, how we detach. Because anything else needs to be maintained. Yeah. If you're attached to a certain behavior and you try to let it go, and you start doing certain things to let go, I am not criticizing, and I'm not here to criticize. And you start to do things to help you to let it go and not to hold on to it, then you find yourself having to maintain doing. You have to keep up with it, because the moment you let yourself go, if you let that self go, then it returns and gets attached again. I hope this is coming across. So there must be that attachment needs to die in order for you to be truly detached, where it can be there and it doesn't have any power over you. You can't come home until you leave the place that felt like home. This whole inner transformation, if you're experiencing a shift in your life, and that shift is pulling you inward, away from the story or stories, because there are many, from the way we used to live, that have kept us from experiencing true inner peace. And that has kept us from just truly being in a world that is so exhausting, because there is so much to grab your attention, isn't it? So much. But you can be in that space where you don't need to try to let go. If you're experiencing that inner shift, what I'm sharing with you is that detachment will come naturally the more you come home to yourself, because you're coming home to yourself means that you're leaving all of it behind and you're coming back to your center, which is home. So in that process, it's all happening. When I experienced this type of detachment, it wasn't that I decided to let go. I wanted to let go of certain things that was taking up too much space in my life, but I wasn't trying to. And the more conscious I became to who I really truly am, only but a presence. The person is the form. I started to just let go of what wasn't truly me. The deeper you know yourself, it's the easier you are able to detach from whatever doesn't have the power to hold you, to pull your attention like it used to. The more you discover who you are, more present you become with yourself and your thoughts. It no longer have the power because you recognize the mind and the thoughts that are coming, and it no longer have the power to pull you into a space where your thoughts become your action. When the needs start to dissolve, that's the unbecoming that I'm always talking about, unbecoming. Some people say awakening. You're shedding all the layers until nothing is left. So you don't have to hold on to anything anymore. And it's not forced. That forcing is what's exhausting us. That forcing is why many people find it impossible to let go. And they suffer. They suffer because they're doing it from a place of need. When the season change, the tree it doesn't give up its leaf. It let them fall when the season changes naturally. Everything that carries life detaches at some point. So this tells me detachment is a natural process of change, right? And if you are experiencing that inner shift, you realize that things are changing because you're not seeing it the same way you used to see it. Your old self used to see it. You're losing the desire for it naturally. So if you're struggling with something that you've been trying to let go, turn your attention back home to yourself. There's no steps here. I'm sharing. Bring the attention back here. And there are so many times when we're asked to let something go. But even in those times, there is a subtle movement on the inside. Something is removing from our lives the things that have become monuments in our lives. And although painful, let's be honest, although painful, there's a kind of comfort that is felt when those things are removed. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful. The universe will also allow things to stay in our lives, stay in our presence until it no longer owns us. And God gives us the grace. So give yourself some grace if you've been trying to detach from something and you've been overthinking it and just spiraling the mind and the fear that you have. Turn your attention back to here. I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you so much.